Welcome back to Creating Your Life. This is episode 7, Subconscious Repository, Part 1. Hi, this is Marc-Andre Alexander back for more. We are now going to go into the subconscious repository, the subconscious mind, and how it operates. Before we do that, let's talk a little bit about how the conscious mind works. When you are perceiving your environment, when something's happening, one of the first things you do is you connect it to your experience, what you know. So for example, if I perceive something running towards me, the first thing I would do is this something familiar? Have I seen something like this before? Yes, I have. It's a dog. It's a Rottweiler. I've seen this before. Now I'm aware of that. The next step is then to evaluate and respond. So the last time I saw a Rottweiler running towards me, it bit me, and so therefore this is a bad thing that's about to happen, so I'm out of here. Consciously, we would do that all the time with everything if we had to deal with things consciously. So I'm walking towards something. What is it? It's a door. It's closed. Have I seen something like this before? Yeah. So what happens? Oh, well, I know if I can open the door, I can walk through it. So I open the door and then walk through it. You can imagine that if we had to think about everything from our breathing to every conscious movement, picking things up, observing something, deciding what to do with it, it would just be overwhelming for our conscious mind. So we have a subconscious repository to take care of that for us. Its job is, as a repository, is to store things. And what it stores is anything that's repeated. Repeated patterns, repeated habits, repeated preferences. Take, for example, learning how to type. When you first learn how to type, you have to consciously move your fingers to each of the letters. T, H, E, space, D, O, G, space, R, U, N, S, space. And you have to think about everything, all right? I'm looking at the word, where are the letters? One of the things that typing teachers have you do is they have you learn over and over again, just repeat things. As you repeat them, the patterns and the feelings of the keys and the way your fingers move get stored. So if I am going to type, the dog runs towards me, after a while, there's a part of me that knows where those letters are, and I don't have to think about it consciously anymore. You can probably type consciously up to close to 20 words a minute, but you can't get much further than that. If you're able to let go and start trusting your subconscious to have recorded the pattern so it can do it for you, then you go faster and faster and faster. So you're at 30 words a minute, 40 words a minute, 50, even 100 words a minute. You can just be reading sentences and you just type really quickly. I'm a piano player, and it's the same kind of thing. Initially, I had to learn the keys, and then I'm learning a piece of music, and through practice, the pattern gets stored. So at a certain point, I don't even have to think about my fingers anymore. In fact, it's better that I don't, because once I let go, my fingers know where to go, and they can just move really rapidly and do what's necessary to accomplish the piece. If I'm in performance and I start thinking about my fingering again and where to go, I'll actually cause problems because I'm slowing things down to the conscious level rather than letting the subconscious mind do it for me. So its job is to store patterns. Think about driving a car. It's the same kind of thing. Initially, you're wondering, okay, when do I hit the pedals, and then how do I turn, and then do the blinker and look to the left or the right. All the different things you have to consciously do can be pretty challenging when you first learn to drive. But with practice, it becomes a part of you. So you reach a certain point, you probably could be driving down a freeway and go a mile or two without even realizing you're driving. You forget, you're daydreaming, you're thinking about something else, and then suddenly you're back going, how did I not get into an accident? Well, it's your subconscious. It knows how to respond to the sensory input, so it was keeping you on the road and maneuvering as other cars were around you. This is the value of having a subconscious mind. It automates anything you repeat, including habits. Anything you habitually do. If you start smoking, It's not just the physical act of smoking that addicts you, but it's just the pattern. Oh, when I get up in the morning, I have a cigarette. Oh, after I eat something, I have a cigarette. Oh, after this, I have a cigarette. After that, I have a cigarette. Under these circumstances, I have to have a cigarette. So there's both an addictive element, but there's also just this pattern. I am a smoker. This is how smokers behave, and it becomes a part of you. Same with preferences. Preferences work in ways where, somebody early on told me, I had a bad experience with fish. My mom was not that good of a cook, especially when living in the Midwest, where getting fresh fish was not always an easy thing to do. And so she would feed me fish, and my first experience was bad. And I just started having this preference. I don't like fish. I don't like fish. Fish are bad. It wasn't until many years later I happened to be in Hawaii, and I tried out some seafood, and that was fresh, and it was a revelation, and it started unworking some of the preferences that got stored. Still to this day, there's certain kinds of things with fish that work against me because of this pattern. I haven't broken it completely, but I've broken it enough that I can enjoy sushi, certain kinds of fish, certain kind of preparations. I know what to avoid and what works. So some of these patterns can get adjusted. So it's not just repeated patterns, habits, and preferences. What also gets stored is your self-image, the picture you have of yourself. So if you start deciding, I'm a certain kind of person, I act this way, I feel this way, I have these kind of attitudes, I have these kind of preferences, I think this way, these are the things I like, these are the things I don't like, this is the kind of person I am, that gets stored. And again, as the subconscious repository, you begin kind of automating yourself, being the kind of person you think that you are. This is important because sometimes people give you pictures of yourself. You may have been raised in an environment where your parents told you something over and over again. Oh, yeah, there's Mark. He's such a klutz. Yeah, he drops things. He does this or that. And if that picture gets stored in me that I'm a klutz, then sure enough, I'll start acting that way. If I assume that's my picture, I'll be more likely to fumble things and drop things. So what parents tell you, what teachers tell you, what your friends tell you, those things can feed into your self-image, and then your self-image begins to auto-regulate. And we'll get into the mechanism on that a little bit later in a different podcast or video cast. In the meantime, the thing to understand about the subconscious repository is that patterns get stored. What you repeat gets stored. So look at yourself and think about what is it that happens over and over again in your life and becomes a pattern. What is it that's getting stored? What have you assumed all your life about yourself? About what you prefer, about what you think? Anything that gets repeated gets stored, and you can be emphasizing that repetition yourself. That's all for now. Next time we'll continue with the subconscious repository. In the meantime, go to markandrealexander.com, and you can go to Amazon and see my book, Creating Your Life.